Imagine having an autoloader so big that it's capable of pumping its way through a lot of the opponent light tanks in the game, playing in the T41E1, or otherwise known as the unnerfed M41 Walker Bulldog, because of course, why wouldn't a premium tank be part of the more overpowered classes? And that was what we're going to have a look at today. It is of course the tier 8 American premium light tank that is actually really interesting because it does get that 10 round autoloader that the M41 Walker Bulldog used to get. It's very strange how these tanks were too overpowered back in the day, and then they released them a few years later, and apparently they're absolutely fine now. Same happened with the ISU 152K, which has the BL10, which was too powerful, once again, than back in the day. But straight away in this game, we are essentially taking a pretty aggressive place. I wouldn't recommend ever stopping there, since there are often a lot of tank destroyers on the enemy team that will quite gladly take away the majority of your hit points. Luckily, we don't have that problem in this game with there being only 2 TDs, so not a problem with us. But what we do have to do when we're over here is make sure that we aren't pushing it too aggressively and making sure that these rats that are in the Talon aren't coming over too quickly. Now, we do take a more kind of passive approach at the beginning because, you know, it's not fun actually losing all your hit points, and so we do take a little bit of a runaway over here, as you can see, making our way up to this corner. But it is kind of difficult to defend from here, so we want to ideally get out of here and go somewhere better, so that we can get a bit of team support from the people in J6, which is something that you should always do. If you can have your team just give you a little bit of support, we all know what teams are usually like in World of Tanks console, mainly poor, but at the same time, you know, sometimes they can help you out, and that's what we're after within this game. Now you can see here, just constantly trying to get some damage using that autoloader. You got a really short intricate reload, about 1.6 seconds roughly, which is quite good. I mean, it's definitely very nice to have, especially when enemy light tanks try and YOLO you. This is very much a anti-YOLO wagon, as well as also itself being a YOLO wagon. I mean, this tank is very good at going in and just basically removing the hit points of a lot of the tanks in the game. Now you can see here the Action X is pushed up way too far, and we remove those last remaining hit points. So we've done 1,145 damage, which is fairly mediocre. I don't think anyone's going to be saying that that's a ridiculous result, but what is nice is the heat rounds of this, and they do have a very nice amount of damage. But also, the fact with this tank is it is a M41 Walker Bulldog, which essentially is pretty big. I mean, it is similar to the size of a medium tank if it was a small medium tank, something like a T20, for example, the tier 7 American medium. But having the size allows you to have the weight, and when you're coming up against an EOC even 90, it's very nice to do. So hopefully that's given you like a little bit of a rundown on this vehicle. I mean, the 10-shot autoloader having 150 damage per shell, I believe it is, somewhere in that region, means that you can essentially deal over kind of 1,500 damage in a clip, which is very nice, and you can basically full health an entire tier 8 heavy tank if you manage to high roll. But of course, if you find a tier 7 heavy, something like a Tiger 1 or something like that, then you can almost guarantee full healthing them with an entire clip, which is something that is really nice to have, especially when you're in a light tank like this. And this tank isn't slow either. A lot of the times when you've got tanks like this, they typically are quite slow. But you can see here, we're able to come full speed into the M56 Scorpion, which basically has no armor, and we managed to deal a ton of damage. You always want to go for the YOLO wagon, but you can see here, a lot of the enemy team are not quite realizing the power of this tank, and within a couple of seconds, we've managed to take out 3 of the enemy tanks. Now, definitely not the usual in the T41E1, but you can see there, picking up over 4,000 combined damage, which is very good. I mean, especially when the majority of the damage is actual damage as well. So really did enjoy playing this tank, giving it a whirl back in I believe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, something like that. We've been building up a ton of gameplay, so there's tons of videos coming out. Took a little bit of a break, I think, because there's just it's a lot to continuously be uploading, and I feel like you know, taking a break to relax and chill is always something you should do, because there's no point in stressing about something, and I feel like it only negatively impacts the sort of videos that you can make if you're feeling just constantly pressure to make them or whatever, then yeah, hopefully you guys can at least accept that as my reasoning. But yeah, hopefully we'll be back to more consistent uploads and just making sure that you guys are getting the content that you want. And of course, let me know what sort of things you actually want to see in the game, because that is something that I always want to make sure that I'm doing, is providing the content that you want. But there you go. Nice little game there, but we have got one more, because this other game is showcasing the spotting ability of this tank. So we pick up, what, 3,600 there. We picked up 6 kills. Also picked up 1,786 base experience and a nice little bit of silver before the silver with interest operation was available. So let's jump into the next one and see exactly what this has in for store. Now the next one is a really quick game on Westfield. And this one we managed to pick up quite a bit of damage. We're able to push forward and use the tank how it's supposed to be played. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do on Westfield as a light tank to come out with good results. I mean, there's so much room for you to be able to get some assistance damage, as well as the fact that you can get quite a bit of actual damage if you manage to catch people out, or if you manage to catch people off guard, which is what this tank is very, very good at. If you can come in and you can essentially find those targets, single them out, and basically remove as much of their hit points as possible. Now here you're seeing one of the key negatives of this tank, and that is the fact that it doesn't get the best shell velocity, and it also does not get the best kind of shell velocity on those premium rounds. Standard rounds decent, but it is also not very good at reversing. So this tank is very, very slow at reversing, and it kind of makes it a little bit annoying to play sometimes. But that's really where you've got to use what you know about the game to focus on just trying to spot for your team, and then getting up close and personal at the end of the game to use those rounds to more of an effect. There's no point in sniping with this tank. I mean, a lot of the time you'll get spotted when you're firing, and of course when you haven't got the best top forward speed, then yeah, that definitely doesn't work out too well. Now most people would have just fired there, but we want to make sure that we're getting as far back so we don't get hit by any of these, or at least reduce the chances of being hit. We're going to try and get 2 into this Centurion, maybe even a 1 into the J Panther, but at this point we're trying to move away. We managed to track the Chrysler on the move, and that allows us to not only potentially get some tracking assists, but actual assistance from spotting them. So if you can do that, it's the kind of win-win. You're basically going to get as much spotting damage as you possibly can, or assistance damage as you possibly can. But we use a little crest of the ridgeline here to spot up that J Panther, and we spot the Centurion as well, hoping that someone that's kind of sat at the back is going to be able to find them. Unfortunately, the Centurion has got a rush of just absolute turd to the brain and manages to come all the way over to get 1 shot of damage. I'm sure it was really worth losing all of your hit points. But we're not going to complain. Gives us a little bit of assistance, gives us a little bit of actual damage as well as he progresses, so not a problem with us. But what we do want to do is spot that J Panther again. Hopefully we can find him and get some damage on him. But at this point I'm thinking, doesn't seem to be a whole lot over here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to just kind of YOLO in at this moment in time. But what we can do now that the J Panther has taken quite a few hits is maybe potentially think about going in, because if we can go in and we've got a little bit of team support, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Now we find the J Panther here, we managed to put 1 into the lower plate using those heat rounds, and then our artillery piece, who hit him earlier, manages to give us a little bit more assistance in this game, and there we go, picking up over 2,000 combined. And this is one of those games where you're bottom tier. And in Westfield, obviously, if you don't have the best view range in the game in terms of light tanks, it's not particularly the nicest to play, because of course it's kind of like the battle for view range at this point, especially when there's an enemy EBR 105, and as soon as you start spotting opponents, that's really where you get the kind of best rewards. And you can see here me just trying to get some damage onto this area, but of course getting a little bit unlucky. I know we're on the move, I know that you shouldn't necessarily stop, but we were just trying to get as many shells into these people, whilst also making it very difficult for them to turn around. It could have been played slightly better, maybe it was worth stopping, I don't know, but we didn't take any hits for it, and we got a little bit of damage in return. So it's not the worst play in the world, but if you can stop, then you probably should. But nice little bit of extra spotting for our team, nothing too major. I mean, there's other players on the side that are spotting for the team, but we managed to find out where this Chrysler K is. He's looking in the wrong direction. That's going to be his downfall, and the enemy or friendly Arty manages to finish him off. But with only 1,000 damage and only 1,700 assistance, I'm trying to get as much as possible in this late game, which is where this Bulldog comes in very clutch, because if you find someone like a little rat of an artillery piece, yeah, you can farm them up pretty nicely. And you can see here there's 2 enemy artillery pieces, and we managed to track them, and this is really where this tank comes into its element. We find this Ariete P46 who's going after us, and we plow a couple of rounds into him, and now it's just time to spot for our team against this artillery pieces. They are looking around, and essentially any damage that gets put on them, we're hoping to get a little bit of assistance. He misses, and we're getting more and more assistance as we spot these guys. So nice to have a bit of assistance as well at the end of the game. And of course, if you do stay alive, which is primarily what you want to be doing in your light tanks, then you're going to be able to get as more and more of that actual damage, as you can single people out, get around them with this tank, and it really does feel very nice to play. And it's a little bit of something different that you don't usually see within World of Tanks, so there's no negatives from me really. And I think my initial review of this tank was a little bit not necessarily wrong, but I feel like maybe I wasn't giving it the justice that it deserves. But hopefully that gives you more of an indication as to what this tank is like, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of the T41E1, or what's known as the old M41 Walker Bulldog? Let me know, and hopefully you did enjoy. Check out some of the other gameplay and tank reviews that we've done recently in the gameplay and tank reviews playlist on screen, and I'll see you hopefully in the next one. Goodbye.